What's up, everybody? Welcome to Heads Up Play SEC 2024 season preview. We have went over the Vanderbilt Commodores, we went over the Arkansas Razorbacks, and we went over the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Now we are going into our next team, the South Carolina Gamecocks. We're going to talk about their schedule, talk about all the stuff going on with their new roster. So let's get into it.
That is right, everybody. Week, what is this now? 4 out of 16. I tell you what, since we've been doing this, the weeks have been going by fast.
I know.
I think college football season is going to get here like that, especially as we get into some of these bigger teams. Sorry to South Carolina fans. Sorry to Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vandy fans. You're at the bottom of the heap.
I mean, like we talked about previously, it's really, really high college football in the SEC, and then it gets really, really low. I think this is the last team on the really, really low.
I would agree with that. I think after this team here, we're getting into more 3-4 win type conference teams.
And there's two teams that come to mind with like that low to mid tier, and I think we're
in agreement with that. We're not going to spoil anything here, but we do have the South Carolina Gamecocks today. Look, the Shane Beamer era has been, I would say, a little bit of a disappointment. Look, obviously Clemson has been king in the state of South Carolina for a while now.
Yeah.
But what would you give a grade so far for Shane Beamer at South Carolina?
Shane Beamer, he's sitting right now with a 20-18 record in 3 years at South Carolina. First year went 7-6, not bad. Second year went 8-5. That was peak. They beat Tennessee that year. They went to the Mayo Bowl. They had Spencer Rattler at quarterback still. Then last year they went 5-7, kind of blew expectations. Last year was a fail of a season, in my opinion. So now he's coming in the year 4. He was on the hot seat a little bit last year. Everybody was mentioning it. I think this is the year This is Shane Beamer's last year at South Carolina.
If I was a betting man, I would probably agree with you. I know the expectations at South Carolina are not very high, and they've probably lowered a little bit since the decline of Clemson. Obviously, when Clemson was going to national championships, winning national championships, South Carolina fans were probably sitting there going, when are we going to catch up? These guys are just killing us. They're taking over the state. Dabo, of course, we've talked about it before on the podcast. He does not want to adapt. South Carolina even pulled up a big upset at Clemson in 2022, I believe. But yes, last year was definitely a disappointment. This year, probably not going to be much better. He has not utilized the portal very well, I don't think. He has utilized it. He's gotten a good bit of players, but
besides Spencer Rattler, I can't think of no one that was. And I would give Beamer credit. He fixed Spencer Rattler. Something was wrong with him at Oklahoma. He made Spencer Rattler into an NFL draft-ready quarterback. He went to the New Orleans Saints. I do believe Spencer Rattler will start a game for the Saints this year. That's for a different video, different day. But I think he has fixed Spencer Rattler. I think Beamer is a good offensive-minded coach, but you're right. He has not done well in the portal. This year he got Raheem Sanders from Arkansas running back.
And we'll talk about him for a minute. But you mentioned he's a good offensive mind. He may be a good coach for a lower-level program or a good, I don't know, he reminds me of someone Nick Saban would bring along as an analyst,
Yeah.
But let's take a look at the coordinator. So Clayton White is the defensive coordinator. Last year had the number 66 overall ranked defense in 2023. He's been there since 2021. Defense to South Carolina, it's just been kind of meh. And then the offense, Dowell Loggins, he's the offensive coordinator, had the number 77 ranked offense in 2023. That is even with Spencer Rattler at quarterback. But to get into the transfer portal a little bit, he's brought in a lot of 3-stars, some names, nobody that really blows you off the page, but I would expect a huge year from who you just mentioned, Raheem Sanders. This guy rushed for over 1,400 yards in 2022, didn't play too much in 2023 for Arkansas, But in 2022, he was second in rushing in the SEC behind a one-only Quinshawn Judkins, who, of course, just went off that season. I mean, so, and then that's about it. But I would expect a big, big season from Raheem Sanders. I really would, because you're probably going to be a running team because Spencer Rattler is gone, and likely your starting quarterback is Lenoris Sellers, who only played a few games last year behind Rattler. He threw four passes on 4 attempts, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, and some BS work. Don't forget, though, if you're going to be a running team, who else did he bring in?
You talking about the quarterback?
Yes.
Oh, he brought a running quarterback in Auburn's own
Robbie Ashford.
Yes, I think that's I mean, if you're going to be a run power team, that's not a bad pickup. I mean, he could pass the ball. In my opinion, I feel like Ashford did not get a fair chance in Auburn to be the starting quarterback. They kind of gave it to Peyton Thorne and let him have it all year. I think they should have gave it to Ashford, but like I said, another story, another day. But Ashford is a good mobile quarterback. Can he pass the ball? Well, no, but he can run. He can move the offense, I think.
I agree. I think, you may see Robbie Ashford come out. Maybe he beats out Lenoris Sellers for that starting job. Who knows? He was not a good passer, though. But, man, he can run the ball, and maybe they utilize him in some sort of Wildcat type, packages. Who knows? But let's get into the schedule here real quick.
I'm going to tell you one thing before we get in the schedule. I'm going to make a wild prediction. You ready?
Okay, let's hear it.
This is Shane Beamer's best defense he's had at South Carolina.
Okay, a lot of we didn't really touch a lot of returning pieces, a lot of seniors, grad seniors, whatever you call them, fifth-year seniors. Very experienced defense, just no big names that jump off the list. But I agree with you.
Just a bunch of pieces. When you got it out in the corner. You got O'Donnell Fortune, you got Jalen Kilgore, and then you get into the interior lineman. You got Dylan Stewart, Boogie Huntland, Tonka Hemingway, T.J. Sanders, etc. You just got a lot of names out there. It's like you said, returning seniors, juniors, these older players. When any sport, I don't care if it's football, basketball, baseball, tennis. When you have this many returning old people, you will have success with that. It always does tend to work out better.
Experience is most certainly very important in any sport, but I would say probably more so in football and basketball, especially. We've talked about the way basketball is going. That's, again, a story for another day. But I agree with you. This could be a great defensive team, probably the best he's had just due to the age and experience of pretty much everybody aside from a couple sophomores on that defense. But on the schedule here, we've both got them going 4-8. So that would be really 12th or 13th in the conference.
And we're going to explain, once we get done with the schedule, everybody, on why we had them above Arkansas and Mississippi State. And you're probably thinking, well, they have better records. Well, we'll explain to you why after we get done. So, Sam, sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're all good. So, starting off, look, obviously easy cupcake wins this season against Old Dominion. It's a little bit of a weird lineup with the schedule. So, you're starting off with Old Dominion. Then you go straight into SEC play against Kentucky and LSU. That's a tough start there to the season, aside from Old Dominion. And don't sleep on Old Dominion.
No, do not sleep on Old Dominion.
And then you got the Akron Zips. That should be a win. We've got losses against, of course, Ole Miss, Alabama, OU, A&M. I mean, that's a really, really tough 4 stretch right there. A win against Vanderbilt, you lose against Missouri, you beat Wofford, and then a loss on the road at Clemson. But as you mentioned, Arkansas, Mississippi State, we've got them winning a couple more games than we've also got them going 4-8, but more SEC wins, I believe.
I'm gonna say they were 5-7. They were 5-7. They had. I think they had the same amount of SEC wins, but they had more non-conference wins.
Correct. And look, we're more high on South Carolina because some of these games can be some toss-ups, man. I mean, South Carolina has been known to just come out of nowhere in some random games. You think about that 2022 Tennessee game. You think about the 2022 Clemson game. I mean, Shane Beamer is not a terrible coach. He can game plan really well, I think, and there might be a game or two on this schedule that we've got them losing where they come out and pull a big upset.
I look at maybe 3 to 4 possible games. You have, if this was a nighttime game, I would say, okay, maybe an upset. South Carolina, LSU, they have it right now. I don't know if you saw also. They released the first 3 weeks, times, kickoff, what channel they're going to be on. So perfect. Love that. You have LSU, South Carolina at 11 a.m. If that was a nighttime game, Sandstorm playing, I assure you that probably would almost been an upset. I kind of also think going to Kentucky, I would not be shocked. I'm not really high on Kentucky this year, but I think that's my second one. A&M will be my third one, and then of course Clemson Tigers.
It depends
where Clemson is at that
correct
point of the season.
It would be a big statement for Shane Beamer to make the trip to Lexington and get a big win on the road. That would be huge for them going into the rest of the season. But again, that's an early season SEC game against not a great Kentucky team, but I mean, look, Stoops has still had some pretty good teams at Kentucky over his tenure so far. Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing to sleep on. That game could go either way. Like you said, LSU, who freaking knows? I'm looking at the Clemson game, and I'm going, man, oh, man. I've got them losing that game, but
there's a lot of ifs with that game. Let me tell you 2 ifs. If Clemson's having a successful season or not. And I'm just going to sound like crazy if Shane Beamer's still the head coach at that point.
Good point.
If Beamer's not there no more, I think it's a blowout. Give it to the Tigers. But it just depends.
I also look at A&M, new head coach. Who knows there? Oklahoma loses their offensive coordinator. Maybe they come out flat on that end. This is, it's some big question marks here. But I think if I was a betting man, we're both in agreement that this is probably the schedule, the record that they're going to have here, 4-8.
This is easily a team that could possibly go 6-6 and go bowling.
Sure.
I mean, easily. I mean, you really don't know. There is a group of teams in the SEC this year, and I would put South Carolina in there where you don't know what they're going to do. They can either be 4-8 or 6-6 or hell 9-4. I mean 9-3. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Now, let me ask you this. If this is Shane Beamer's last year, if it's not his last year, actually, how many games does he need to win? Is this he needs to make a bowl?
He needs to make a bowl.
So 6-6 at the very least to keep his job.
He needs to make a bowl.
So he'll need to come out with some wins out his ass, against a game, like Clemson, Kentucky.
Not good for him.
No, I agree. So
I guess my question is to you. We kind of talked about this with Arkansas. If they fire Shane Beamer, this next hire is important because you do not want to get left behind. I think Mississippi State's been left behind. Vanderbilt's been left behind since they joined the conference. It's big on South Carolina. If you fire Beamer, who are you going to get as your coach? Are you going to get a former head coach? Or are you going to get a former offense coordinator? Are you going to get someone on the likes of Jimbo Fisher? Someone who don't need the money? Because South Carolina is notorious against second tenure coaches with Will Muschamp. I mean, they've always done it. What will South Carolina? I'm very excited to see how they handle their new coach hire.
Well, you mentioned it right there. They bring in Steve Spurrier. Who do they bring in after Steve Spurrier? Will Muschamp. Watch. 2024 head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks will be Billy Napier.
You think so?
They like their Florida coaches. Who knows? I mean, Billy's on the hot seat.
This is reading something right now. Mike Norville. There's no way.
What?
I'm trying to see if there's maybe any ideas of who they would get. I'm just telling you. I mean, I would look out for the names of Deion Sanders, the Lance Leopolds of Kansas, the etc. The names that are always on there.
I'm in agreement with you, though. I mean, look, the game is going. If you're going to hire like a coordinator as a head coach, you really got to get the best of the best coordinator if you want to be successful. I mean, or else the build might just take way too long. And in this day and age of college football, every coach has a solid 3 years. I mean, look at Billy Napier right now. He's going into year 3, and this is make or break. You know, so and
same with Beamer, year 4. Him and
4.
Pittman, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be an interesting season for South Carolina for sure. I'm kind of excited to see how well they do, honestly.
I am too.
But guys, I think that does it for episode 4 here. We're not really going by episode numbers, but we will tell you who our next one is, because me and you, we really don't know who was next on the list. Now, we kind of knew who 16 through 12 would be, but now we're like, okay, who's next? Because now we're getting into that those teams that are like, okay, we got to do some debating as to where we want to place them. So be sure to, as always, like, subscribe. How do you think South Carolina's season is going to go? What do you think about Shane Beamer? What do you think about some of the moves they've made? Again, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, all of us on there. We do appreciate it. Heads Up Play. We out. JR, hit him with it.
You stay classy.
That's right.